March 24, 1943. In the dim, windowless depths of a Luftwaffe operations bunker near Berlin, the air hung heavy with the scent of stale coffee and ozone from flickering radar screens. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the faces of young women bent over plotting tables, their fingers tracing arcs of pencil across vast maps of the Reich's skies. The room echoed with the soft clicks of headsets and murmured coordinates, a symphony of vigilance broken only by the occasional hiss of static. Outside, the night was crisp and starless, the distant rumble of thunder, or was it engines, hinting at the storm gathering beyond the horizon. This moment, etched in the annals of aerial warfare, marked the escalation of the Royal Air Force's relentless campaign against the heart of Nazi Germany. As the Battle of Berlin unfolded, RAF Bomber Command under Air Chief Marshal Arthur Harris unleashed waves of heavy bombers, including the formidable Lancaster, in a bid to cripple industrial output and shatter civilian resolve. The raid that night would see over 700 aircraft swarm the skies, a force unprecedented in its scale, targeting factories, rail yards, and residential districts alike. It was part of the broader combined bomber offensive, where British night raids complemented American daylight strikes by the 8th Air Force, eroding the Luftwaffe's dominance and exposing the vulnerability of the Third Reich's vaunted defenses. Historical records from the Imperial War Museum detail how such operations aimed not merely at destruction, but at psychological attrition, forcing the German High Command to divert resources from the Eastern Front to protect the homeland. The female Luftwaffe plotters, known as Luftnachrichtenhelferinnen, had been recruited with promises of contributing to an invincible air armada. These young women, often in their late teens or early 20s, expected a war of swift victories where German radar technology like Freya and Würzburg would detect intruders early, allowing night fighters such as the Messerschmitt Bf-110 to intercept and dispatch them with ease. They envisioned sparse incursions, perhaps a dozen or two British bombers skulking through the clouds, easily tracked and neutralized. Memoirs from Wehrmacht auxiliaries, compiled in post-war archives, reveal their initial confidence, bolstered by propaganda films depicting the Luftwaffe as the unassailable guardian of the skies. Yet, as the radar scopes began to bloom with blips that night, reality shattered those illusions. What appeared as a trickle soon multiplied into an unending river of echoes, hundreds upon hundreds, a bomber stream stretching for miles, defying the plotters' frantic calculations. The women, clad in their gray-blue uniforms, felt their hands tremble as they pushed markers across the table, the sheer volume overwhelming their systems. One auxiliary, in a rare surviving account from the Axis History Forum collections, described the screen as a swarm of locusts descending, her voice cracking over the intercom as she reported the impossible numbers. Factual records underscore the magnitude of this disparity. On that March night alone, RAF logs confirm 764 bombers dispatched, with 437 Lancasters forming the backbone, each laden with up to 14,000 pounds of high explosives and incendiaries. German defenses, according to Luftwaffe reports declassified after the war, scrambled only 150 night fighters, their pilots exhausted from ceaseless patrols. Joseph Goebbels, in his diaries published in 1978, lamented the raids as a catastrophe, noting how the endless drone of Merlin engines pierced the night, sowing panic in command centers. Data from the United States Strategic Bombing Survey revealed that by mid-1943, Allied raids had inflicted over 10,000 tons of bombs on Berlin in a single month, destroying 6,000 acres of urban landscape and claiming 1,500 civilian lives per major assault. Quotes from Hermann Goering, the Luftwaffe chief, captured in interrogation transcripts, admit the failure. The appearance of these heavy bombers in such numbers has shaken our faith in air superiority. The plotters, witnessing this deluge on their scopes, grappled with the raw arithmetic. Loss rates for the RAF hovered at 4%, while German interceptors struggled against the bomber stream's defensive fire, as evidenced by 33 Allied aircraft downed that night against mounting Luftwaffe attrition. Amid the chaos, a simple object recurred in the bunker, a crumpled wrapper from an American chewing gum packet, salvaged from a downed B-17 pilot's effects weeks earlier. One plotter, perhaps seeking a moment's distraction, had tucked it into her pocket, its bright red and white stripes a stark contrast to the drab surroundings. It symbolized the boundless resources pouring from across the Atlantic, where factories churned out not just war machines, but everyday luxuries undreamed of in rationed Germany. As the radar pings intensified, she fingered the wrapper, its minty residue a faint reminder of an enemy's abundance, where even soldiers carried tokens of plenty. Later, during a brief lull, another woman spotted it on the table, commenting on its foreign allure, a whisper of democracy's promise, free enterprise yielding endless supplies, fueling the Allied war machine that now darkened their skies. The transformation was profound, etching doubt into ideologies once unshakable. These women, indoctrinated in the Hitler Youth with tales of Aryan supremacy, began to question the regime's invincibility. Post-war testimonies from former auxiliaries, archived in the Bundesarchiv, describe how the endless bomber streams eroded their belief in the Führer's promises. One anonymous account recalls the shift. We plotted their paths, but each night the numbers grew, and with them our certainty faded. The raids forced a reevaluation, highlighting how American industrial might, through Lend-Lease shipments of fuel and materials, empowered British Bomber Command. By 1944, as the combined offensive peaked, German aircraft production plummeted 30% per economic analyses, while morale surveys indicated widespread disillusionment. The plotters, once proud sentinels, now harbored whispers of defeat, their trembling hands not just from fatigue, but from the dawning realization that the war's tide had turned irrevocably. As the night wore on, the bunker vibrated with distant detonations, the air thick with urgency. The chewing gum wrapper lay forgotten amid scattered reports, yet its presence lingered, a silent testament to the foe's inexhaustible vitality. Shifts blurred as the women relayed coordinates to flak batteries and fighter controllers, their voices steadying against the onslaught. Historical evidence from RAF debriefings notes the effectiveness of window, aluminum strips dropped to jam German radar, turning scopes into chaotic snowstorms, further amplifying the sense of helplessness. In Hamburg's Operation Gomorrah later that July, similar streams of 791 bombers, including 354 Lancasters, created a firestorm killing 42,000, as detailed in the British official history of the Strategic Air Offensive. Goebbels confided in his journal, "The enemy has broken through our defenses in a way that mocks our preparations." For the plotters, each blip represented not just an aircraft, but the erosion of Nazi ideology, the myth of racial superiority crumbling under the weight of Allied persistence. Emotional undercurrents swirled beneath the factual barrage. The women, far from the front lines, yet intimately connected to the carnage, felt a quiet despair. Expecting to chart triumphs, they instead mapped invasions of their own airspace, the endless Lancasters a harbinger of ruin. One plotter's later reflection, drawn from survivor interviews in the Other Side of the Sky compilations, evokes the chill. We were the eyes of the Reich, but what we saw blinded us with fear. The contrast gnawed, propaganda's heroic Luftwaffe versus the grim tally of failed interceptions, with 500 German fighters lost in the first quarter of 1943 alone. Amid this, the chewing gum wrapper resurfaced, passed hand to hand during a power flicker, its sweetness a mocking echo of freedoms denied under the swastika, where scarcity defined daily life. By dawn, as the last echoes faded, the transformation solidified. Ideologies bent under pressure, the once unquestioned faith in National Socialism fractured, replaced by a pragmatic survival instinct. Records from the Nuremberg trials reveal how such experiences contributed to internal dissent, with auxiliaries like these women quietly sabotaging reports or feigning equipment failures in later months. The endless streams had not just overwhelmed defenses, but pierced the veil of indoctrination, revealing the fragility of totalitarian control.
In the epilogue of this aerial odyssey, the trembling hands of those plotters echo a larger truth, that freedom's abundance, embodied in the simple luxuries of democracy, like that forsaken chewing gum, ultimately triumphs over oppression's scarcity. The Lancaster's roar, backed by American plenty, whispered of ideologies where innovation and liberty fuel unbreakable resolve, reminding us that true strength lies not in conquest, but in the enduring spirit of open societies, where even in war's shadow, hope persists like a forbidden melody in the night.